Hello, fabulous entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 316, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes to today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/316. Today's episode is a spotlight interview. I have invited the amazing Stasha Washburn onto the podcast so that we can talk about our menstrual cycles, period coaching, and how Stasha is creating an amazing revolution in which we as women are able to exist in the world with our bodies and all of the things that go with that. So if you are someone who menstruates, you're no longer menstruating, you're interested in understanding how to work with the moon cycles, or you're just fascinated by the topic of period coaching, then this is going to be a really amazing episode for you. Let's dive on in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Spotlight Series episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Today, I'm joined by the fabulous Stasha Washburn. Hey, Stasha.
Hello.
And Stasha is a period coach, and she was my original period coach as well. I've worked with Stasha. She now also runs the period coaching school, in which she helps other practitioners, providers, coaches, mentors to incorporate period coaching into their work so that they can work with their clients who menstruate in alignment with their cycle and really help to maximize their effectiveness, productivity, all sorts of cool stuff. So today I'm going to be talking to Stasha in particular about how we can use our cycle. And if you don't have a cycle anymore, you can still use the moon cycles to really maximize productivity, and why some of the productivity advice that we've got is totally BS. So Stasha, welcome. Is there anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
I don't know. No, I can't think of a thing. That was fantastic. I loved it.
Lovely. And I should also add, Stasha is the author of The Revolution Will Be Bloody. It's an amazing book. This is my good copy that I haven't leafed through, and I have a second copy that I've read through 3 times, and it's all dog-eared. So it's a fabulous book, and we'll make sure we link to this in the show notes, as well as Stasha's got a great free resource for us today. So we'll make sure all those links are in the show notes today. So, Stasha, let's start at question number 1, which is, what is the difference between the masculine model of productivity and the feminine model of productivity?
Yeah. So I think of it as everything in life is cycles. So there's male cycles, there's moon cycles, there's menstrual cycles. They're my 3 M's. Male cycles, 24-hour androgen cycle, basis of our society. Everything is based off of the male cycle. You get up at 8 a.m., you have your first meeting at 9 a.m., you do your social media at 10 a.m., you do your 11 meeting conference, you have your noon lunch. It's very structured throughout the day, which is perfect for dudes. Mm-hmm. Then there's the moon cycles, the menstrual cycles. And if you were basically to take a male cycle and just zoom it out over the course of, say, a month, now we're talking about those feminine-based cycles, that moon and menstrual cycle. Yep. It's not that men don't have a high point of their day and a low point of their day. That's fairly common. We all have that cortisol rhythm that goes up and down. And then, of course, men have their androgen cycle. But we have that just on a bigger scale, where we have a lot more energy in follicular and ovulation, which would be when the moon is growing in brightness and full moon. And then we have that more wanting energy in post ovulation, which is that luteal phase, or post full moon as we're moving into the new moon. So it's just kind of taking that male masculine model and just expanding it to a whole month instead of one 24-hour day.
Yeah. And the thing that I love, and we've talked about this before because I had Stasha speak at my Heart-Centered virtual business conference on this, because when I first heard about this, I was like, oh, we've been doing it wrong. This is why everything makes sense. And so the big thing for me was that I had been trained, especially in corporate, and we had productivity training in corporate. And I like, you can tell when I'm feeling particularly unproductive because my Audible library just suddenly gets filled up with like Atomic Habits and How to Get More Done and all of those sorts of things. I like to say that my follicular self likes to write checks that my menstrual self can't cash, right? In follicular, I'm like, I can be more productive, and I come up with all these strategies. But in most of them, they talk about having the same day over and over again. That the secret to productivity and success is getting up at the same time each day, getting into a habit, getting into daily habits and routines. And after I heard you talk about this more feminine productivity cycle, I let go of this need to get up at the same time every day in my cycle. There are times when I get up early and I just naturally wake early. And there are times when I wake late. And instead of making those times that I wake late a failure, I just see that it's part of this process. And so I would love to know from you, there's so many other things that we try and jam into a day and get routine. So I'm sure that this would then also play out into like the right foods to eat for certain times of the month, or the right activities to do for certain times of the month. So do you want to just give us a little bit of a run through of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as a menstruating human being, and as let's say anyone who wants to identify with the feminine more, so rooting in those moon cycles or rooting in your menstrual cycle, either way, if you stop trying to, like you said, get up at the same time every day, thinking about it from that perspective of we almost always sleep a little bit more in that deep luteal menstrual phase, new moon phase. Like, maybe if you're an average 8-hour night sleeper, you find, I'm sleeping 9 hours a night in this phase. But then around the full moon, I find I'm sleeping like 7 hours during that phase.
Yeah.
Great. So why punish yourself? Like, are you going to force yourself to stay in bed an extra hour and then force yourself to get up an extra earlier? Like it's not good for our health, our rhythm, our balance. So when you take it and look at it from this perspective of expansion and contraction, rest and productivity, get things done and recover, right? No athlete worth their salt is going to tell you to train hard every single day. Rest day is one of the most important parts to training as an athlete. That's true of life. We need more rest days. We also need go get them without feeling bad days. So, when we're working a 16-hour day in ovulation because we're just rocking it, awesome. Embrace it, run with it. Don't feel bad about it. But then on the flip side of the coin, when you've done 2 hours of work, it's the day before your period, you're exhausted, you just can't anymore. You also don't need to beat yourself up because in that big picture, it's evened out, right? Yeah. So think about each phase of the cycle. And this is the easiest way to do it if you're just getting started. Think of it as the season. So if you think of menstrual phase as your winter season, what naturally is evoked? Warm stews, hot cocoa, cozy by the fire, snuggled in bed, dark, right? Winter, kind of inward, introverted, totally embrace that stuff. This is actually that time where I contend the most important part of your business is done in your menstrual phase, because this is that phase when you really have the brain capacity for the big vision. What is it that you really want? What do you want to see your business do? How do you want to see it grow? What's the legacy you want to see? What's retirement look like for you? But all of that big picture work, because that's, I think, the biggest antithesis to shiny object syndrome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Vision in winter. Go inward, get into that heart and womb space and what's really true. And most of us know that around the menstrual phase, our BS barometer plummets and we have very little capacity for nonsense. That's a great time to go, what do I really want? Because your body's like, I know I'm not going to bullshit you right now. We got things to do. So it's a good time to do that. Same thing with the foods. What are those warm winter foods? Like the pumpkins, those big orange squashes, sweet potatoes. Those are all really good hormonally balancing foods. Beets, dark beans, right? So like, what are those dark looking, right? Winter, dark, and salty is our flavor for winter. So,
Nice.
adzuki beans, seaweed soups, misos, those kinds of things, really good for that menstrual phase, really good to help rebuild the blood stores, the iron, all that kind of good stuff. So
Yeah.
if you just put your head in that seasonal space, some things kind of come illuminated right there.
Yeah.
So follicular, right after menstrual, springtime, energy is rising, the moon is growing. We've got those springtime vibes happening. We're a little more extroverted, want to come out of our little winter hut and get out there into the mud and the dirt and have a play. Perfect. Go to the meetings. Estrogen also is rising during this time, which is also linked to our verbal skills. So higher estrogen means better verbal skills. So a good time to start that copywriting, for example, getting that kind of stuff done. But it's also in the same thing. What's the foods of springtime? Greens, dandelion greens, sprouts, shoots, lettuces, those light greens. Run with that because that's actually a perfect time. Your body needs to do a little detoxing, a little refreshing, getting some of those more macronutrients in. And those micronutrients in. So it's a really good time to just it's a sour flavor. So those lemons, those limes, those citruses, ferments, get your ferments in if you've been a little neglectful over the chocolate hoarding of your menstrual phase. Maybe that's just me. So then we hit ovulation, which is your summer. It's the peak. Your estrogen is the highest. Your testosterone is the highest. Your verbal skills, therefore, are the highest. Your extroverted energy is the highest. You are the lioness on top of the mountain. Hear me roar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
Go do it. And it was an interesting study done on women in tipped positions. And this was, I believe, waitresses and strippers that they followed around. And it turned out ovulation is when they made the most money.
Oh, nice.
Actually got tipped the most in this phase. So I like to think of it as the phase where other people want to give you what you want. Just go ask for it.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Ovulation, go ask for what you really want because people are more inclined to give it to you.
Yes. Brilliant. I also, just a little aside on that.
Yeah.
Having worked with you and understanding this, I also plan, especially if I'm going to run a challenge as part of a launch, that's 5 days of holding space and asking for what I want and getting people to take action. And so that is always in ovulation. That's a non-negotiable for me because I know it's the perfect time for me to actually get that done. And I really show up with that really bright, full energy. And I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good way to do it. Anything that you're doing like a live, a webinar, a launch where you're doing live video like you do them.
Yeah.
The flip side of the coin is I tell people if you are doing something pre-record it during ovulation and then launch it when you're in luteal so that all you have to do is kick back and chill in Facebook groups.
Nice.
If you're not showing up on video, you just get to manage comments and interact with people from bed with a bar of chocolate nestled next to you. Plan it so that you can just kick back, relax, and enjoy that little bit of communication. And then part of the brilliance of luteal is that you kind of move through two parts of it. So I broke it up into luteal and deep luteal. So right after ovulation, a lot of people can feel a bit of a dip. You kind of wake up on top of the world for a couple of days. And then one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm a little not as zesty as I was yesterday. It's not generally a big dip. I mean, I have clients, but they have hormonal imbalances and that big dip definitely hits them. But for the most of us, it's just I just feel a little less colorful today or just a little less I was going to do that, but just a little flatter. And that's as you're moving into late summer. And if you think about late summer, the days have been hot. You're probably a little tired. You still have, all of the plants are growing. You still have a harvest that you need to bring in and process and can or jar or whatever, but you're kind of on that decline of energy. So I always think of early luteal as sitting out on the front porch with a glass of iced tea as the sun is starting to go down. You still want to clink and talk to your neighbors a little bit, but you don't want to get off your front porch and go out per se.
Love it. Love it.
And then that deep luteal, so 4-ish days before your period is when all those hormones start to really come down. And it's really now a sharp decline into menstrual, which is what triggers the menstrual bleed, is all those hormones coming down. So this is that phase where you may start to feel brain fog. You're not really excited about anything. My business people, I say your business PMS has you doing things like rebranding, redoing your website, re-niching, all of the things that you do not need to be doing, but you've lost your testosterone, so you're feeling a little less confident. Your hormones are diving down, your estrogen is starting to dip, so you're feeling less juicy, a little drier, a little and so now you're second guessing everything.
Yeah.
While your visual skills are peaking, and it is actually a good time to do stuff like play with the visuals, it's not the time to actually rebrand. Don't make the announcement. Don't actually change your niche. Don't actually change your website. Just maybe have a play. But don't stick with it. If you come around in follicular and you go, you know what, I actually do really like that branding color, maybe have a talk about it then. Yeah. But not in deep luteal.
I remember we had a conversation once, I think it was in the accelerator. It was like, do you really need to burn your business down today? Or is it just deep luteal? Yeah, there's some times where it's not a time for making the big decisions, but it's time to ask the questions. Yeah. Love it. Nice.
And when you're in a really good flow and like you're launching, you know, like a webinar or any kind of anything really, that deep luteal phase is the perfect time to, you know, get cozy in your favorite chair or just tuck into bed and have a play on Canva. Make 100 different, you know, social media graphics and Facebook banners and website banners and email, like have a play.
Yeah.
Don't go in and redo your business.
Yeah. I love that so much. So we've now gone through those phases, those 5 phases with the luteal and deep luteal. And I love the way that you've connected it to the seasons because it's much easier to remember then, right? Oh, it's summer, right? Okay, summer foods. I want my big crispy salads or whatever it might be. So what I'd love to talk about now is why this understanding of our clients particularly, because most people who listen to me have a business and we would have a lot of people who would find this very helpful for themselves. But something that I love is with Period Coaching School, you are equipping people who serve others who may menstruate or may want to work with the cycles and the seasons. You support others to incorporate this into their work. And for me, like as a business mentor, it has been revolutionary to be able to start those conversations with people and say, look, are you comfortable us talking about what phase of your cycle you're in? Because what I tell you to do or what I get you to work on, it will be different depending on what phase of your cycle you're in. And also we can schedule our calls at the right time for decision making and then swinging into taking action. So, you know, for me, I assumed period coaching would be a health coach's thing. And now seeing what you've done with Period Coaching School and seeing business coaches, healers, health coaches, mentors, even people who work in like the like design space, having this understanding and being able to incorporate this knowledge into their work, like it's been a revolution. You know, the revolution will be bloody, another book plug, but it has absolutely been a revolution. And the more I hear you and now your period coaching fraternity, worst word ever for period coaching, but you're a posse of period coaches.
Alumni?
Seeing them, right, all out there, just spreading the word about this and it becoming a normal part of the conversation has been so magical. So I'd love to know from you, Stasha, like what do you think are the big benefits as a practitioner or a provider or a mentor of really equipping yourself with the deep knowledge of how to work with people through their cycles? Because we've got the shallow stuff, we can do that stuff, but what you do in Period Coaching School is like next level.
Yeah, it's the difference of harming your clients versus helping your clients, which is a bit extreme. But when I look back and I pay attention to coaches online as well, and I see, you know, struggling with a client or, you know, this client who's just not motivated or they can't figure this thing out or, you know, they're putting a client on a cleanse and the client's about to get their period, worst time ever.
Yeah.
So there's unfortunately a lot of damage that can be done just through ignorance. And I don't mean that in an insulting way. None of us were taught this stuff. None of us were taught any of this. So it's not like, don't go back and like yell at your mom or your teachers. Now we know. Yeah. So now we need to be informed and start working with that with our clients. So for the students, really, we do this integrating period coaching with your clients. So for us, it starts from the very beginning. If you have an intake form, even if you're not health in any way, shape, or form, but you have a client, you can put something on there like, as a period coach, I like to make sure that I am working with your cycle. Are you comfortable chatting with me about this? Right. So right on your intake form, there it is. And they're not feeling pressured to make an answer in that moment, live face to face with you. They can just kind of go, oh yeah, absolutely. Like whatever. And you can have a couple questions, is your cycle regular? Do you have any problems like PMS or painful periods? And just get those few little answers, because that's going to tell you like, oh, they do have a lot of pain, or they do have PMS. That's hormonal imbalances. And then you definitely want to make sure that you're not screwing up and making it worse.
Yes. Yep.
So just knowing that, and then talking to your clients. So one of the first things you want to do is get them charting, just tracking their cycle, tracking their period, tracking their cervical fluid, their energy levels, how they're feeling, their moods, those kinds of things. I just got off with a client who was saying how amazing it was, well, a student actually, but how amazing it was that now she was able to see when she was just very creative versus when she was so strategic and logical. And so she started putting it on her chart and realizing, theoretically strategic stuff, follicular, creative stuff in luteal, but now she's really getting into like pinpointing it. Like I am super strategic on like day 3. It's just, oh my God, strategy brain. Yeah. So when you start to really see that stuff, then you can go, so like as we were talking, I was saying, great, now you've got this information. So let's talk about your quarterly plan. Yeah. When do we need to sit down and do the strategy session? Day 3. So what's on your calendar for day 3? And can we make sure it's empty so that you just sit down and strategize, pull out the quarterly planner, plan the month, plan the content, plan everything, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Whereas if you're doing this out of flow and you're asking the client to sit down and strategize and say they're in deep luteal or menstrual and they're having a tough time even holding the concepts, let alone breaking it down step by step, they leave frustrated. They feel like they're not accomplishing anything. Why am I even doing this? So you end up sparking a downward spiral. Yeah. Where you could be sparking an upward spiral. And I think everyone I know, every coach I know would rather be on the upward spiral sparking end. Yeah. So knowing your clients and getting that bit of information, which is, as a coach, how do you get that to happen? Get them charting, get them paying attention to those things, ask the questions that pertain to your particular field. If you're a health coach, you're going to talk about their food. Not going to be the same every day, hopefully. So hopefully you'll see some changes throughout the month. Most of us have cravings in that luteal menstrual phase. And, as the health coach, knowing, okay, you're going into your luteal phase. What are the things that you normally crave? Great. How can we make some healthy options around the house to help mitigate that? Yeah. Yeah. Or as a business coach, okay, where are you in your cycle? Then today we're having a strategy session, or let's talk big vision today, or, let's dive into the graphics. What are you thinking about for this? So being able to really talk to your clients where they are in their cycle. And as well as you as the coach in the situation. I know for myself, when I'm with my clients and I'm in deep luteal, I will straight up say, I am in deep luteal today. Yeah. I'm happy to strategize with you, but really my skill right now is getting into those blocks. Yeah. So do you feel like you've had anything that's been bothering you or coming up lately? Because I'm in intuitive heaven right now. Let's get into those blocks and get them unblocked. One of my clients will go, where are you in your cycle? Because I need witch Stasha today, not strategist Stasha today.
That is so magical. And for me, I follow along with period coaching school. I know who's been through it. Like I love your students and I follow most of them on Instagram and Facebook. And for me, I think it is such a selling point as well, to work with a mentor or a business coach or a health coach who is informed in this space is absolutely phenomenal. To think that even today, best practice productivity is based on the masculine cycle, the daily cycle. It's still considered best practice. How long ago was it that they started including women in medical studies and, all sorts of things, and not excluding them just because their periods made the results go all out of whack, Or so we are now living in a time where there's just so much more understanding, and people are hungry to actually have services and mentorships and programs that are crafted for them and take into consideration the feminine as well as the masculine. And, I talk about even things like the Facebook algorithms are created by straight white men. So they preference and favor straight white men, right? So for me, it's such a selling point to dive into a program or something where it's actually being built for us. It takes into consideration our needs, and that's rare. And it's so amazing to see more and more period coaches now incorporating this into their work, more and more mentors, more and more coaches, and just feeling like, wow, like this is what it feels like when the world's built a little bit for you.
It's amazing how pretty much every client's first words are, so it's not me. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I just, oh my, what a sigh of relief to realize it's not you. It's not your lack of willpower. I just saw a post today that was talking about discipline, and I just wanted to reach into the screen and just shake the shit out of, anyway. It's not discipline. It's not a lack of discipline. It's trying to be and fit within a paradigm that's created for straight white men and cis men. And it's just not made for us in any way, shape, or form. So no, you're not doing it wrong. Well, you're doing it wrong, but not at your own fault. Like you're not doing it wrong and failing. You're doing it wrong because you're doing it for a dude. You should be doing it for a dudette. And let that go. And it's tough. I will be the first to tell you that I've been doing this for 10 years, and I still every month have a conversation in my head where it goes, you really should be XYZ right now. And I go, no, I shouldn't, because that's not where I am in my cycle right now. That's literally on the calendar for 2 weeks from today, specifically because that's not what I should be doing right now. I still have to have that conversation in my head every month. No, I should not right this second be doing that thing. But it's that pressure of the patriarchy, of that capitalist society. Your only value is the money that you're making right this second. And if you're not making money, you need to be working to make money. And there's no space to rest in that.
It's so funny to see some of the crossover between your work and mine, because I see that a lot with people who come into my space and they find out about this consent-driven marketing practice and the more feminine approach to marketing and not needing to be pushy and aggressive and use fear-based and toxic strategies and things like that. And it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I just felt like I wasn't cut out for sales and marketing. And I say, you're just not cut out for toxic sales and marketing. You're cut out for high connection, deeply consent-based marketing and sales strategy, because that's our natural strength. And we want to show up in a way that's in alignment with not only our values, but like how we connect with others as humans. And so, oh my gosh, like if we just build it that way, you'll be far more successful than if you try and do it like the dudes. So I think this is it's really powerful to just see some of that crossover of the same experience when we stop trying to fit our beautiful feminine selves into these rigid masculine structures. And so, I really adore that this is becoming more prolific and that people can find out more and, get started in understanding how their cycle works with their their productivity and also, what they're able to do in their business. So Stasha, one of the things that you talked about was charting and actually keeping note of things as you go. I'm a big fan of daily tracking myself. I do the money stuff and I also do my charting thanks to your gorgeous mandala that you have that we can use. So I believe you're going to share a little free resource with us to help people get started with charting.
Yes. Absolutely. I believe in charting so deeply that you can use this freebie for the rest of your life with never giving me a penny.
Yeah.
That's how much that's how important it is and how much I believe it can make the difference between people. Is like, here's a freebie, you can use it forever and you never have to give me a penny for it.
Nice.
It's a charting mandala. So what charting technically is tracking your ovulation cycles. So yes, you're also noting when you get your period, but you're basically making sure you're ovulating every month. You can have a period without ovulating, and it's an anovulatory cycle. It's not awesome. It's not really good for your long-term health. You really need to be ovulating. So what we're doing when we're charting is the basic core of it is finding out when you ovulate and then kind of working out from there. But what I realized when I was trying to deal with my own endometriosis and find some relief from that pain was that if I started tracking things like my energy levels, my moods, how I was feeling, if I was moving, how I was eating, digestion, of course, and I could see it all, I started realizing like, oh goodness, I can see predictable swings in energy and engagement and introversion and extroversion, all of this stuff. And that's when I realized, oh goodness, I could be just working with my natural ups and downs rather than pushing through the downs, making myself miserable. And honestly, more times than not, making it worse than having to go into follicular and like fix the email sequence that I bungled in deep luteal trying to put together. And now I have to like undo all of it, fix it. It would have been quicker to just wait and do it in follicular in the first place.
Yeah.
So I started realizing like, oh my goodness, I can work 22 hours a week and still get 40-hour work week done if I'm just going with my cycle and what I'm good at. So I put together this mandala with an artist, and this way you can just color each day. It takes a minute or two as you get going with it. And you can start to track it and you can see it all on one sheet of paper. So you can really see the whole month at a glance, your ups, your downs, what you loved, what was sticking for you, whatever you want to track. And you can make the symbols mean anything you want. You don't have to go with my suggestions either. So like a lot of people will say, I'm not going to track my cervix. I'm not worried about getting pregnant. So instead they track meditation or water intake or like my student, what they just felt good doing, strategy, visuals, and just sort of made a couple different colors and started tracking just what they felt like doing in their business on that particular day. So you can really have a play with it. I mean, mine has changed every year. I sit down and go, okay, what should I track this year? Like, I don't need to track, like when I first started doing this, I was tracking gluten because I thought that might've been one of the reasons my endo was so bad. It was, spoiler alert. I don't need to track that anymore because I have been gluten-free for years, like almost 6-7 years now. So like, I don't track that, but now I use that space to track movement and because I wanted to move a little bit more this year. So I decided, I'll color it in if I'm moving 30 minutes or more a day. So and I let myself off the hook around deep luteal and menstrual. Like that's never going to be colored and that's okay.
I love that. Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, I just realized as well, like there are, those health trackers that you get and you're only rewarded if you keep it up every single day for 100 days in a row. Yeah, that's really built for women, isn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, I know. My watch tells me to stand up. And when I'm in deep luteal, my response is always no.
I will not do that.
You cannot make me.
Yeah. I love that so much. So we will make sure we link to the charting mandala in the show notes of today's episode. And I just want to say a little note as well. Whenever I've talked about doing my charting each day, people say to me, oh, you can just use apps for that now. really the apps do not give you the same insight, the same level of understanding, that same connection to your body that this more detailed tracking does. And for me, it has made such a significant difference to just get into some more of the detail of those little things that feel different and really paying attention. I was someone who, up until I was 30 years old, I used to say my body is my inconvenient potholder for my brain, right? Like my body just gets in the way of everything that I want to do with my brain and my mouth. Talker. And so I felt very disconnected from my body. You know, people would say, oh, don't you feel really bleh after eating that food? I was like, no, I don't feel nothing, because I was so disconnected. And so that little bit of time each day just to connect, just asking my body, how does that feel today? How many times do we actually stop and do that? For a lot of us, we're so disconnected from our body, and our body is where the magic is and where the energy comes from. And so there's so much power in doing that charting. We'll make sure that we link to that in the show notes. So Stasha, something that I ask everyone in the Spotlight series at the end of our conversation is that if I was to quote you on something, what would you want that to be?
Your body did nothing wrong. Please don't discipline it. Just go with the flow.
Oh, that was worth the wait. I love it so much. I love it so much.
There were so many ideas in my brain. I was like, what's the best though? What's the crux of it?
I love that so much. We're going to put that big and bold when we share this, because that is so powerful. Thank you so much for joining us, Stasha. Do make sure that if you aren't yet following Stasha on socials, that you go and check her out. We'll have all the links with the show notes of today's episode. Thanks, Stasha. Until next time, from both of us, we cannot wait to see you shine.
Bye,
guys. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.